The fact is, when you're getting into the industry and you don't have much to offer, right? Those first projects, like, you better take whatever you can get, right? And you better be happy about it, that you're getting anything at all, because there are people that aren't getting things.
Hi, I'm Molly from Springboard, and I'm here with Jamal, a UX designer and the founder of Truth About Design. Jamal, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's jump in. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself? Kind of where did you get started, and how did you become a UX designer?
I'm a military brat. So I was born in Germany, raised in Germany, went to school there, to college there. And about 6 years ago, I decided to move to the Bay Area because, as far as the design and the tech and the UX field, it's just way more interesting stuff happening in the Bay Area. I just wanted to test my limits. So that's how how I arrived here. As far as the question of how I became a UX designer, I kind of got lucky, I think, because at the time there was no UX design degrees. So I studied media systems design when I was in Germany, which was sort of like an interdisciplinary mix of design, computer science, and economics. And it's the perfect thing to study for people that can't really decide what they want to do with their lives. But I very quickly understood, figured out that I was just good at the design part. And then I just started growing that. And as I discovered that the user experience field was growing and that type of design was growing and that I had a knack for it, I just stuck with it. And that was around 2010.
Awesome. And so I know that you worked in a number of industries from auto finance to tech. So how does the UX design differ in terms of approach based on industry or type of product?
The process of designing things, of doing research, of understanding who you're designing for, and prototyping and coming up with final product is very similar across industries, and that's why I was able to work in so many different industries. The things that differ is how the industries think about design is the difference, not how the designers practice design. So for example, when you're in banking, obviously people tend to be more conservative. They don't want to take as many risks. And that can be tough for designers because it's just not, you can't really unleash your creative ideas the way that you want to in the banking industry. On the other hand, when I was in the gaming industry, you could just go wild and do whatever you wanted because you were working with these, with people in their late teens and early 20s who understood technology. And then sort of a middle ground was when I was in retail, right, working at Walmart, because they just cover such a broad spectrum of people in various different segments. So there was an interesting mix where you got to push the boundaries sometimes. In general, the way you practice design is going to be the same across industries. And that's why it's relatively easy to make the switch across industries too.
So building off of that question, we have a question from one of our own Springboard students, Meg, and she asks, what is a company like Google looking for in a UX designer, since we know that you used to work at Google?
A lot of times when I ask students where would they like to work, they always say like, oh, I want to work at Facebook, oh, I want to work at Apple. But they never think about, okay, what do you even have to offer? Why would they hire you? Because they've never been in a position where they had to hire someone else. Because think about it, if you're hiring someone else, you want to find someone that fits the team, that you enjoy being around, that can do the job. And oftentimes when you're just starting out, you just have so much more to learn, right? So in order to get into one of those big tech companies, my recommendation is to consistently do your best work for a long time and keep learning and keep growing in your craft. Continue to build the craft and learn everything you can. For the first 3 years after college, I spent like almost all of my free time just reading everything I could, every blog post on every site, every book that was out there. I read them all. And only after doing that for another 3 years after college, I started getting the feeling that I'm kind of decent at this. And that's when the bigger companies started taking notice too.
Great, thanks for sharing that. So moving on, what are some of the most important UX design tools that one should have experience in?
So when it comes to the UX field, there's a lot of tools out there, but the ones that I highly recommend you focus on above all else, don't even worry about the other tools right now, are Sketch, because it's the industry standard. So that's what you'll use for low fidelity wireframes, and for high fidelity visual work, use Sketch. Just use Sketch. Don't worry about anything else. Just use Sketch. If you want to add animations into your work, once you've got the high fidelity mockups done and you want to do like animations and micro interactions, use Principle. That's the tool that everyone's using, and it integrates perfectly with Sketch. There's a lot of other tools out there, but those are the tools that everyone's using. And if you're getting a job in UX, you're going to be using what your team is using, and in most cases, that's going to be Sketch and Principle.
That's really great advice. And I guess kind of building off of advice, being a Springboard mentor, how did you get involved in that, and what kind of made you want to become a mentor?
Well, it was actually when I was at Google a couple years ago. I finally had gotten the ego validation of working at Google, and but after about 6 months, the ego validation wore off, and I wasn't even that happy there. And then I realized, and I started wondering, okay, Jamal, what do you even really want to do? What do you even care about? And I knew that I wasn't quite management material yet, and didn't really want to go on the management track, but I knew that I cared about people. I cared about teaching. I cared about mentoring. I had done a couple of volunteer mentoring engagements in the years before and just loved it. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So then General Assembly called me and said, "Hey, do you want to teach here?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And that got me on the track of teaching. And after that, you're always teaching the same thing at GA. So after a while, I decided I wanted to, challenge myself in different ways, but also still still stay involved in the mentoring community. And that's how I found Springboard. And it just was just a perfect fit from the start.
Yeah, that sounded like that was a really nice organic way to segment into mentoring. Would love to know a little bit about seeing things from the mentor perspective. I know a lot of our students are watching. What does it take to be a good student, would you say?
A broader question than what does it take to be a good student, but it's sort of the question of what does it take to be to be successful as a designer, because that's what most of the students are trying to accomplish. And I think what's really, really important there is that you have that tenacity that we talked about earlier, that you don't give up, that you're willing to work hard on your own, and not just, I'm a mentor, I'm not your personal trainer, right? A personal trainer will tell you exactly what to do all the time, while a mentor takes someone who is already driven and already kind of knows what they want, and sort of just give them a few pointers to accelerate their trajectory. Like the person is already going, and the mentor is just like, okay, just adjust yourself a little bit, and you'll go even better and even faster. So being tenacious, being hardworking, being a good communicator, being able to know how to ask for help. I think that's really, really important, because a lot of students, I really like it when students reach out to me more than just on the day that we have our scheduled call. A lot of times some students will like send me their work like 2 hours before the call. I'm like, come on, man. Reach out to me throughout the week, ask for help. I'm here. So sort of keeping that line of communication open.
Well, I'd love to focus a little bit more on you. So, the truth about design, would you mind telling us a little bit more about that? How did you get started, and kind of what were your ideas when creating it?
Yeah, so that came about organically through my teaching experience too. Teaching experience and also speaking in front of students. I've just noticed that every year something like 5 to 10,000 new designers are coming out of these boot camps and out of these colleges, and a lot of times they're just woefully unprepared for the real world. So when I go out and speak to designers, like for example, I have this course called "Is UX Right for You?" where I speak candidly about the downsides of UX, and I've given that lecture in person, and every time I talk to people about that, afterwards, students come up to me and like, "Thank you, Jamal, for telling me the truth and not just about how awesome UX is, because, it can't just all be all perfect, right?" So I decided to create a platform around that, around giving candid truth and guidance for the design industry. And and just sort of taking this message that I have and putting it out there to a larger audience. I launched about 3 weeks ago as at the time of this recording, and I've gotten some good traction so far. About 1,000 people a day are reading it, and yeah, I'm just super excited about being able to help push the industry forward in that way, and also over time, give other designers a voice in order to tell the truth about what's really going on out there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today and would love to find out where we can find you online.
The best place to look is at truthaboutdesign.com. And my other site, my portfolio site, if you want to look how Jamal does his case studies, is jamalnichols.com. So those are the places to look for me, truthaboutdesign.com and jamalnichols.com.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jamal, for joining us. It was wonderful having you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.